At 1:55 in the morning, a security camera recorded 27-year-old medical student Brian Shaffer standing outside a crowded bar near Ohio State University. He spoke briefly with two women, then he moved out of the camera's view in the direction of the bar entrance. Only a few minutes later, the bar began to close. Brian's friends searched inside. They called his phone. They waited outside as the other customers left the building, but Brian never appeared. Security cameras recorded people leaving through the main entrance, yet investigators could not identify Brian among them. His car remained at his apartment. His belongings appeared untouched, and only days later, Brian failed to board a planned flight with his girlfriend. Nearly 2 decades have passed. The final confirmed image of Brian Shaffer remains that grainy security recording outside the Ugly Tuna Saloona. So, what does the footage really prove? And how could a person disappear from a crowded building without leaving a confirmed trace? Brian Randall Shaffer was born in 1979 and grew up near Columbus, Ohio. At the time of his disappearance, he was 27 years old. He was 6 feet 2 inches tall, with brown hair and hazel eyes. He also had a distinctive pearl jam tattoo on his upper right arm and a small mark in the iris of his left eye. Brian enjoyed music, he played guitar, and although he was studying medicine, friends said he sometimes imagined a different kind of future, a life involving music, travel, and fewer responsibilities. Brian had already completed an undergraduate degree in microbiology. He was attending medical school at Ohio State University. His life appeared to be moving forward. He was in a relationship with another medical student, Alexis Wagoner. The couple had planned to travel to Florida together during spring break. Brian had a family that loved him. He had friends. He had a promising career ahead of him. But the months before his disappearance had also been extremely difficult. Brian's mother, Renee, had recently died from cancer. Her death had affected the entire family. Brian was grieving while also dealing with the intense pressure of medical school. According to his father, Brian looked exhausted after several nights of studying. This emotional pressure would later become part of the discussion surrounding his disappearance, but it is important to be careful. Grief does not prove that Brian wanted to disappear. Stress does not prove that he intended to abandon his life. And there is no confirmed evidence that he had created a secret plan to leave. What we do know is that Brian entered the final night of March 2006 carrying both hope for the future and a great deal of emotional strain. On Friday, March 31st, Brian had dinner with his father, Randy. After dinner, Brian met his friend Clint Florence. They planned to go out and celebrate the beginning of spring break. The two men visited several bars around Columbus. During the evening, Brian called his girlfriend. She was away visiting family. They expected to see each other again within a few days before traveling to Florida together. Later that night, Brian and Clint met their friend Meredith Reed. Meredith eventually drove them back toward the South Campus Gateway area near Ohio State University. At approximately 1:15 in the morning, security cameras recorded the group traveling toward the Ugly Tuna Saloona. The bar was located on an upper level of the Gateway complex. Visitors normally entered the building and used an escalator to reach the bar. Inside, the atmosphere appeared to be typical for a late Friday night. There was music, there were groups of friends talking. People were drinking and moving around the crowded room. Closing time was approaching. Nothing in the known footage clearly shows Brian in danger. He appears to be enjoying an ordinary night out. But ordinary moments can become extremely important after someone disappears. A person walks past a camera, a friend turns away. A group becomes separated for a few minutes. On most nights, these moments mean nothing. On this night, they became the final pieces of Brian's known timeline. At some point, Brian became separated from Clint and Meredith. That may not have seemed unusual. People frequently lose sight of each other inside crowded bars. But this time, Clint and Meredith would never see Brian again. At approximately 1:55 in the morning, a security camera outside the bar recorded Brian near the entrance. He was speaking with two women. The interaction did not appear threatening or unusual. After the conversation ended, the women moved away. Brian then turned and walked out of the camera's view. He appeared to move in the direction of the bar entrance. This became the final confirmed sighting of Brian Shaffer. Only a few minutes later, the Ugly Tuna Saloona began closing. Clint and Meredith tried to find him. They searched inside the bar. They called his phone. They waited outside as the other customers left the building, but Brian did not appear. Eventually, they believed he may have left without telling them. At the time, that assumption was not unreasonable. Brian was an adult, his apartment was not far away, and people sometimes leave bars without finding the friends they arrived with. But as Saturday continued, calls to Brian went unanswered. His family could not reach him. His girlfriend could not reach him. Then Sunday arrived. There was still no contact. When Brian's apartment was checked, his car was still there. His bed was made. His books, clothes, and personal belongings did not suggest that he had suddenly packed and left. Then Brian missed the flight he was supposed to take with Alexis. At that point, the situation had clearly changed. This was no longer a man sleeping late after a night out. Brian Shaffer was missing. The security footage became the most famous part of Brian's case. The popular version of the story is simple. Brian entered the bar, and the cameras proved that he never came out. But the truth is more complicated. The footage clearly shows Brian near the bar shortly before closing. Investigators reviewed recordings from the main escalator route. They did not find a confirmed image of Brian leaving through that area. That is important evidence. But it does not prove that Brian remained inside the building. The Gateway complex had other areas. There was also a section of the building that was under construction. Reports suggest that these routes would have been difficult and were not normally used by customers. But they may still have provided another way out. Security cameras also have limitations. A camera records only what is inside its field of view. A person may be hidden behind another person. A face may be turned away. Lighting may be poor. A person may move below the frame through a blind spot or beyond the area being recorded. The recordings also showed a crowd. Investigators were not examining a controlled line of people standing clearly in front of a camera. They were looking at dozens of moving bodies in low-quality footage. The strongest accurate statement is not that Brian could not have left. It is that investigators could not identify him leaving. That difference is extremely important. The footage creates a mystery, but it does not create an impossible disappearance. It is also possible that the final recording does not actually show Brian re-entering the bar. It shows him moving out of the visible frame in that direction. Once he disappeared from the camera's view, the footage could no longer tell investigators where he went. Somewhere between the entrance, the building, and the streets outside. Brian's movements stopped being documented. Police, family members, friends, and volunteers began searching for Brian. Investigators examined the bar and the surrounding Gateway complex. They searched the nearby construction area. They checked hospitals, shelters, streets, dumpsters, and locations around the Ohio State campus. Searchers also examined areas near the Olentangy River, but the investigation faced an immediate problem. There was no confirmed direction of travel. If Brian left through the main entrance, he could have walked toward his apartment, he could have entered a vehicle, he could have joined another group, or he could have continued into another part of Columbus. If he used a service route or construction exit, investigators had to begin from a completely different location. Brian's apartment provided no clear explanation. His vehicle was still there. His possessions did not reveal an obvious plan to abandon his life. There was no publicly confirmed financial activity proving that he had created a new identity or started living somewhere else. Investigators spoke with Clint and Meredith. They interviewed bar employees. They questioned witnesses. They spoke with the women seen talking to Brian in the final footage. They also contacted members of the band that performed that night. But no publicly known evidence showed that anyone inside the bar had harmed him. There was also no confirmed sighting after 1:55 in the morning. People reported possible sightings over the years, but every report faced the same question. Could the person be proven to be Brian? Again and again, the answer was no. The search continued, but every direction appeared to end without an answer. No body, no verified message, no confirmed use of his identity. They had no explanation for how a man with a family, a girlfriend, a medical career, and an approaching holiday could disappear so completely. There are several broad theories about what may have happened to Brian. The first possibility is an accident. Brian may have left through an unmonitored or poorly recorded route. He may then have walked away alone and suffered a fatal accident. Alcohol, exhaustion, darkness, traffic, construction areas, and nearby waterways could all have increased the danger. This theory does not require a complicated conspiracy, but it has one major weakness. Despite extensive searches, Brian was never found. The second possibility is foul play. Brian may have left the building and encountered someone outside. He may have entered a vehicle, or he may have become involved in an incident that was never captured on camera. But there is no publicly confirmed physical evidence showing that Brian was attacked or abducted. The absence of evidence does not make foul play impossible, but it prevents the theory from being presented as fact. The third possibility is that Brian intentionally disappeared. He had recently lost his mother. He was under pressure from medical school, and he had sometimes spoken about wanting a freer life involving music and travel. But disappearing permanently would have required Brian to abandon almost everything: his brother, his father, his girlfriend, his education, his car, his future career, and his established identity. It would also mean remaining hidden for years, despite modern photographs, travel documents, employment records, financial systems, and digital technology. That may be possible, but it would be extremely difficult. People closest to Brian have expressed doubt that he would have chosen to disappear without contacting anyone. A fourth possibility is that investigators simply failed to identify him in the footage. Brian may have left among the crowd. He may have used another route, or he may have appeared different enough in the recording that reviewers could not recognize him. If this happened, then the central mystery did not occur inside the bar. The real question becomes, what happened after Brian reached the street? There are also more sensational theories. Some people have tried to connect Brian's disappearance to supposed serial offenders or other missing person cases. but no publicly confirmed evidence has established those connections. A responsible investigation must separate what is possible from what is supported by evidence. None of the main theories explains every detail, and none has produced the proof needed to solve the case. The disappearance created further tragedy for the Shaffer family. Brian's father, Randy, continued searching for his son. He gave interviews, he distributed information, and he remained determined to find out what had happened. But in 2008, Randy died after being struck by a falling tree limb during a severe storm. He died without learning the truth about his son. In 2021, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation released an age-progressed image of Brian. The image showed how he might have looked at 42 years old. Today, official missing person records still list Brian Shaffer as missing. He would now be in his late 40s. The photographs have changed. The age listed on missing person posters has changed. The people searching for him have grown older, but the central evidence remains almost exactly the same. A short sequence of security footage is still the final confirmed record of Brian Shaffer. Brian was last seen wearing jeans, a blue or green striped shirt, and tennis shoes. He was 6 feet 2 inches tall. He had hazel eyes, brown hair, and a Pearl Jam tattoo on his upper right arm. The most responsible conclusion is also the least satisfying. The camera did not show investigators where Brian went. It only showed the last place where they knew he had been. Years later, the case remains open, and one accurate piece of information could still change everything. Anyone with information about Brian Shaffer's disappearance should contact the Columbus Division of Police or the Federal Bureau of Investigation for more carefully researched unresolved disappearances. Subscribe to No Trace Stories, because sometimes the most haunting evidence is not what a camera captures. It is what happens just outside the frame.